Welcome to this episode of Abide in Me, How Jesus Models Secure Attachment with God. This series is a survey of the Gospel of Mark, looking for how Jesus models what is now called secure attachment, which is the physiological, emotional, cognitive, and spiritual experience of what is often called salvation or regeneration or being conjoined with God or enlightenment, individuation, even becoming spiritual. Through the series, we will discover the benefits of becoming securely attached with God, which is the transformation of one's life into one of joy and satisfaction. And so now we come to Mark chapter 6. Jesus has done those amazing miracles, and he leaves that part of the country, goes to his hometown. He's now fully into his ministry, and he goes into the Sabbath and he teaches in the synagogue, and many who heard him were amazed, but they scoffed at him because he's just a carpenter, right? He's got brothers and sisters. They were offended by his coming across somehow as being special. They refused to believe in him. And we're told Jesus quotes this ancient saying that a prophet's not honored in his hometown. He couldn't do any miracles except just to heal a few sick people. And it says he was amazed at their unbelief. So again, Jesus is, we are presuming, fully securely attached. And as we're watching his reaction here when he returns to his hometown, and I expect him to not defensive, not attacking, and accepting what is. And I guess his amazement is that he would have hoped that people who loved him and cared for him would have accepted him as he was. Don't we expect that? Don't we expect that those who are closest to us, who love us, to be the most supportive of us? We consider such people as friends, right? Allies. Isn't it true that blood is thicker than water, as they say? Well, Jesus is asking us in this story to discern when such attitudes, such ideas are actually merely natural and materialistic, and so cannot reflect spiritual realities in us. Jesus wants to see when it happens that our dependence on circumstances or our own will or other people, our belief in our own wishes, actually prevents the development of our faith in God, our connection to God, and our acceptance of goodness and the spread of that goodness. Perhaps it's been true for you too. It's sad to me to read this story of a family breakup. Of course, his mother remained devoted to him for the rest of her life, but all the other family and friends, as far as we know, rejected him. They scoffed at him. I can imagine they could have thought he was just a big brother grown out of his proper station in life. Could have, for some reason, come across as arrogant. And that says something about those people in the town, because other people meeting Jesus are charmed by him. They are connected to him. They feel his welcome and his support. So a relationship possible now with Jesus for these people, it's a matter of choice, of will, of love, of desire. It was blocked somehow because they held on to those old ideas of him from his childhood, the kid that played in the street or so forth, right? So they missed a chance, therefore, to be healed and saved because they allowed those old stories, those old views of him to stop them from having a relationship with Jesus Christ, right? In the story, he's the Son of God. So we are looking for how Jesus is modeling the impact of a healthy, securely attached relationship to this circumstance. When he says that we are to love people not simply because they are brothers and sisters or mother and father, it looks like, on the one level, that he's breaking the command to honor the father and the mother. It looks like a rejection of the ancient traditional family structure. But Jesus' lament that a prophet is not honored by his own people was a well-known saying in those days, and it tells the truth cleanly and clearly that Jesus was bringing to the people. I don't think Jesus is being passive-aggressive here. I don't think he's being cynical. He is working to connect inside of himself his understanding, his will, his thoughts and desires, the divine and the finite, so that they are congruent, and so that he is reflecting a spiritual, heavenly life in his actions, not separating from the spiritual source or creating a distinction. As Jesus makes clear, this is not an either or proposition. He's showing that one's spiritual desires and spiritual faith are to have primacy over materialistic things, even allegiance to merely worldly things such as blood or family relationships. Jesus had been preparing the people and us, the readers, by his actions and words in these stories, even as he was going through his own development, for this realization, for this knowing of what authentic spiritual connections actually consist. When my intellect, when my thinking, when my understanding depends on the idea that God is immanent, that he is present in my life, that God, the divine, the source, life, is present in other people's lives and is present in the world, then that divine love, that energy, is going to be present in my soul, in my heart, and my mind. It's going to direct my thinking. And then I'm able to experience the peace and the serenity that comes with it, the wholeness, the integrity, the authenticity, the emotional intelligence that we see made evident in people who are what we're calling securely attached. And all those qualities of peace and so forth are available to me then in my rational, my conscious mind, because I'm depending on this prior spiritual concept to guide me, to influence me. It's the Spirit, right, that is coming down into my thinking and my acting. And that lived concept welcomes the influence, the organizing force of divine love. This story reveals that good and true ideas lift us up into spiritual warmth and spiritual light, raises us out of this illusory and limited life of our senses. The good news is that this does not require some superhuman effort. It is, however, a hero's journey. Remember, Jesus started as a common man, according to what we could see. We are told he was a son of God from conception, but he was raised in this little town of Nazareth, which is later disparaged as just being a worthless town, amongst normal people in a normal family. So now liken that to some of your ideas in your life, your common life, your ordinary ideas that can be, according to how Jesus models it for us, an introduction to spiritual goodness and wisdom, a reflection of inner life. Those good and true ideas that could lift us up into the warmth and light of heaven. However, they are always mixed with all the other notions and experiences that we have had, good and bad, right? Therefore, by the way we are created by God and then how we are nurtured or not by our caregivers, we come to adulthood with this mix of heavenly and earthly ideas, of spiritually good and unhelpful false trauma responses, right? And some selfishly evil desires, which have become, by habitual use or by acceptance by the community, the way we see the world, ourselves, and how we live. When we reach adulthood, we notice that there are some ideas that we just can't let go of. This is a common observation in psychology. There are some desires that just keep coming back with enough strength to drive our ideas, drive our concept of the world, to drive our behaviors. And we've been using those ideas and those desires to, for instance, relieve our fear of being alone, right? Or our fear of being unloved. Yet some of those ideas, like using alcohol or other distractions, really do not resolve those fears or unmet needs. They can even harm us and harm our relationships. For instance, the idea that if I'm right, I'll let you know I'm correct, and that is going to make me feel better, right? And so it becomes an unconscious habit. I just speak up and say, oh no, that's the right way to do it. And I do this even though that might harm the relationship I'm having with someone because I'm telling them they're wrong. I hold on to that practice. I hold on to that idea because it feels good to me. So that's what's happening to the people in Nazareth. They have this old story about Jesus and they can't let go of it. And that gets them stuck. And so this is an interesting observation here that then Jesus can't perform very many miracles, which means that there's something going on in the people that prevents Jesus from reaching them. So that's a possibility that we could have something going on in our mind, in our bodies even, that interfere with this flow of energy, this flow of life. And that's a topic that we need to pay attention to on our way to becoming securely attached. Do we have ideas that we've collected over the years that are not helpful, that are not accepting of God's love, of his healing? We have to have a sense of owning those things and a sense of being able to turn and look at them, right? That's to repent and to then let them go. But sometimes it's really hard. And in this story, Jesus leaves Nazareth and he never goes back. And that's sad that there was so much missed opportunity on the people's part. But that illustrates the reality that we actually have the freedom to interfere with our own healing. And maybe you've run into people like that. I certainly did in my practice that just couldn't quite get the message and never opened their hearts and minds to this higher power, to this energy of the divine love. Now, the good news that Jesus tells us is that amongst all of these emotions and thoughts are ones that do connect us to heaven and to God. Our task then is to find them, to see them as such, and to acknowledge them as being the ones that will help us, and then cling to them through all trial and tribulation. And therefore, to live according to those spiritual truths, those spiritual loves. And that brings the love of God, the divine love, present into our intellect where we experience it in our minds. In the example of the need to be right, we become aware of the fact that our insistence on being right actually has a negative impact on a relationship we have with someone. We notice that. And we discover how to catch ourselves by some mindfulness practice or some accountability partner, you might say, or by giving up whatever it was we were doing that was distracting us, food, alcohol, sex, so forth. My phone continues to be a distraction for me that relieves any pain I might have of being alone or a fear of being abandoned. But when we notice we're doing that and we catch ourselves, we eventually stop doing it, right? Why does that happen? It's because God's love is always there, prodding us, as it were. It's being present so that we have that opportunity to cling to this flow of love through all the struggles that we have to stop doing whatever it was that was distracting us. Our task is to observe the thoughts and feelings that come into this small village of our minds where we are so comfortable, where we grew up. With practice, every human being can notice when an idea or desire has taken on meaning and power in their life. They can see it happening. Every human being, every one of us, with more or less practice, can then observe the impact those thoughts and feelings have on ourselves and on others and on our relationships. And that is why we need to have contemplative times in our life, when we pause to consider those thoughts and ideas that we're holding on to. Or a small group that we can talk to in safe place, or a partner that we can talk to who will not criticize or try to correct, right, or fix us, that allows us then to observe, to back off a little bit from the stories we've made up, from our trauma responses, and give God an opportunity to flow in with his healing love. We then can discern which thoughts and emotions to honor as providing access to the power of spiritual love and truth. And we can begin to observe the model that Jesus provides for us here. And we then will learn to be securely attached to those ideas that are helpful. We will trust them. We won't have to argue with them. We don't have to defend them. They are there for us all the time. We can trust them to work. And we can hold on to those loves and express those loves unconditionally and healthfully that have borne this result of feeling confident and worthy, right, of value. And then Jesus' love stays with us through the valleys, perhaps shame, right, or despair or regret that we have to go through as we go through the ordeal of letting go of those thoughts and emotions that are not helpful, of letting go of those stories even that were so important to us. If we feel like we might die as we give them up, we have to leave them behind, never to be seen again, even as Jesus left his hometown and his brothers and sisters, perhaps never to see them again. That is the love that carries us through those dark times. And we experience that love, we feel it, we see it working in our lives. And as we watch Jesus in this gospel, we see that modeled. We learn how we are loved, how the universe is for us, that it gives us this opportunity to connect with our spirituality such that we can share the love and feel whole and independent, and even while we are reliant on God. And that love then stays with us so that we then can share it with others, thus living out the life of someone who is securely attached. I pray this has supported your transformative life, whatever practice you have in your life. I want to thank Solomon Keel for his music, and I want to invite you to make a contribution to this work if you wish and are able through the PayPal link. And I invite you to continue to listen to the next episode. You be well.